Well, friends, in what feels like quite unusual fashion, Terra and I are at yet another campground. Honestly, one of the biggest bummers about California is their lack of free public land to camp on and park on. And so now that we're back in my home state, we are going to be a bit more limited. I do have some locations on the docket for the next couple of weeks, but today we just decided to keep it local and go someplace that I honestly don't think I've been since I was a kid. And this is my way of making what could be a boring talking head video Q&A into something hopefully a little bit more exciting. I'll be cooking dinner tonight, roasting s'mores over the campfire, and tomorrow we have a plan for a hike through the redwoods. So I appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you for sending in all of your questions. I think I'm gonna go in right now and prep my body for all the mosquitoes that are currently swarming me. I was not expecting them. And probably get Terra some dog safe bug spray as well. And I'll see you guys at dinner. Tonight for dinner, I'm having some teriyaki chicken, some jasmine rice, I have green onion on here, and then just a very simple homemade peanut sauce. I don't even know if it qualifies as such because it's literally just tamari, peanut butter, a splash of rice vinegar actually because I needed the sugar, some ginger, and some garlic, but it tastes great. The first question is from Johnny DIY, and they were wondering what my future plans / life goals are. Far off in the future, I've stopped making 5 and 10 year plans because I feel like they just wouldn't mean anything to me. But I would like to live intentionally, whether that's on or off the road. I would like to live in community. I've toyed with the idea of getting a master's degree, but only if that serves me at the time that I choose to get it. Specifically, I could see myself living in a place like Colorado or Washington. Maybe Oregon, but a place that prioritizes the outdoors and community for sure. The next question is from Laura Travis. Have you thought about going to a 4x4 van, or are you happy with your truck camper? I know builds are daunting. These look really top heavy to me. I just don't think it would be for me for several reasons. You just hit on a lot of things for me actually. I think that this rig is by far the closest that I've gotten to my dream rig, if there is such a thing. And while I wouldn't write off a 4x4 van completely, I don't think that I want to go that direction just because of the financial investment in something that is still limited in so many ways. Just doesn't make sense for me. Typically 4x4 vans, and please don't quote me on this, but generally speaking, those will run you just for the van alone 70 to 80 grand, with a build 100, 120, 150 grand. And you are actually still pretty limited just from what I've heard other people say who live in 4x4 vans. They still can't go half of the places that I can go in this truck camper, even though it's top heavy. And so in terms of my next rig, someone asked a little bit later on what my dream rig would be, so I'll get it more into the details there. I do think that this rig is going to be really wonderful for us, for where I'm at now in my life and the things that I like to do in the near future. Okay, the next question is from Olivia Roca, and she asked if I've ever encountered anything paranormal. Gratefully, no. But that's also the reason I stay away from some places. Not that I'm necessarily superstitious or believe in the paranormal, but I think I have enough of a question in my mind as to whether or not it exists that I tend to just stay away from places like New Mexico, for example. But not yet, so fingers crossed that that stays the case. There's a handful of questions in here about Terra that I will be answering, but before I get into the specific questions, I do just want to say something that is a very general statement. It's not aimed towards the majority at all, but over the past couple of weeks, I've been getting a lot of comments about, and it's hard for me to even talk about, honestly, because it upsets me so much, but she is living the best life that she knows and the best life that I can give her. So I never want there to be a question of whether or not she is the first thing in my mind, because she is. Dana in Tucson over on Instagram asked where did I find her, and this will maybe shed some more light on what I was just talking about. So at that point, I wasn't sure that I was ready for a dog yet, but I was casually looking. And one night, after searching shelters literally across the West, breeders that I was pretty opposed to just because I didn't have the finances, one, to pay for a dog that was multiple thousands of dollars, but also just wanting to help a dog that needed help, I resorted to Craigslist. And when I say Craigslist, I did not look at backyard breeders, because that is a whole issue in and of itself. So please, if you are someone who is thinking about getting a dog, educate yourself on the problems with backyard breeding. But I was looking for dogs that needed to be rehomed, dogs that had a home, that someone already knew their personality, knew how they were, we knew their breed most likely, that needed a new home, when I came across Terra. And within 12 hours, I met her and fell in love. The poor thing, she was emaciated. Goldens at her age should have been about 40 pounds, and she was 18 pounds. You could see bones. Her skin was not fitting her right. Her hair was breaking off and short. I'll insert a photo here. And it was both heartbreaking and something that sparked within me that said, this is my dog, and it's my job to bring her back to health. And so I adopted her that day. I took her home in the van. Well, actually, I took her to the vet first and got her tested and vaccinated because she didn't have any vaccines. It took many months of nursing her back to health. When I got her, she was quite literally blood for about 6 months. When I got her, she was 18 pounds. At about a year, she was 35 pounds. And now, not even at 2, she's 71 pounds. And I know this is a bit of a rant off of one single question, but this is the background information that I feel a lot of people don't have on her, why I'm so protective over her health problems from the past, and why I'm now so proud that she's my dog, because she's a freaking trooper. She made it through a lot of health issues. We made it through them together, and I wasn't the one who got myself back to health, but I was the one who helped her get back there. So she's not going anywhere. I've also gotten a lot of questions recently about why Terra is always on a lead that you can see wrapped around me right now. And a lot of times it's because it's required. We do frequent a lot of state parks, beaches, other areas that don't allow dogs off leash, especially when we're hiking or on trails, by bodies of water, on beaches. But in addition to that, Terra, and it's not her fault at all, but we've been on and off the road a lot. And so her training, every time we get back on the road, kind of restarts. As such, her recall is at about 70%, which is far and above where we used to be, but it's still not good enough for me to feel like if a deer or a mountain lion or a coyote, which all frequent these areas, were to run by right now, that she would come back. And so not only is it for her safety, but it's also for the safety of wildlife, the safety of other people and dogs, because if someone were to have a reactive dog that she wanted to go be friendly with, I don't want to start a situation that I can't call her back from. And so, as again, much as I appreciate everyone wondering why she isn't off leash running free, she's not even 2 yet. We've been on and off the road in kind of crazy living circumstances, and she's just not ready. And once she is, I will gladly let her off leash wherever it's legal. The next question is from Clifford Redding, and they were wondering how I explain that I live in my truck without coming off like I am houseless. And I guess first and foremost, I will say, technically I am houseless. Obviously, depends on your definition. I have a home, in my opinion, but it's not four walls. I also have family who I can go live with when I need to, if I need to, pretty much without question, especially if I were in a tough position. And so I don't consider myself to be houseless or homeless, but I think in the eyes of others, I probably am more houseless than not. And I think the way that I do this is the way that I do most things in life, and that is by not caring. And maybe that's hard to hear or hard to come around to, but truly, I think in this lifestyle, you have to learn to just really not care what other people think, because they will think something. They will have feelings about what you're doing. A lot of people probably won't want you in their neighborhood, in their town, in their city. It's just a reality of living this way. And so typically I just try to make light of it. If people ask about the rig, I say, oh yeah, it's a great home. Or if people wonder if I live in there full time, I say, yeah, honestly, it's a perfect space for me and my dog. And that's it. There's no big secret to it. There's no big explanation. I just keep it simple. And maybe that's because it's such a small part of my life, believe it or not. But my rig is such a small part of my identity. Even though on YouTube, it seems like it's taken over the last 2.5 years of my life, it honestly has been the least meaningful part of this experience to me. And so personally, I don't find it difficult to just say it and move on. Talk about the things that I do, the things that I want to do, my community, my goals, as opposed to focusing on the space that I live in. So maybe that's my advice, is don't identify yourself with your rig or with living on the road. Identify yourself with the things that you like to do, and I guess just give a nod to the fact that your vehicle is a way to do those things, or to save money, or whatever living on the road means to you. The next question is from Patreon. Jim Alberts has asked whether or not I plan on visiting Canada. And that is something that I haven't yet previewed on this channel, but I will say, tentatively, as long as nothing else comes up, that I have plans to road trip through part of Canada on my way to Alaska next summer. That is the ultimate goal. I want to take this rig or a rig abroad. I love Canada. I can't wait to go back soon. Whether it's BC, where I've been a lot in the past, or exploring new provinces like Alberta or the Yukon Territory, I'm so excited to get back up there. So yes, Jim, I will be passing through Canada, whether it's next year or years to come, not only on my way to Alaska, but hopefully for months to come. And the last question tonight, I apologize, I'm crying from the smoke, not from other things, is from Aaron Riddell, and he's wondering, what would my dream rig be if money were no object? He said to dream big. And this is actually something that's been on my mind quite a lot lately, as I just took my first big trip in the Bigfoot. I'm figuring out what I love, what I still wish I had, what I might do differently next time. And yes, for those of you wondering, I'm sure there will be a next time, because I don't plan on getting off the road anytime soon. And I feel like being on the road is just this big experiment of what I need, what I don't need, what I want, what I don't want. And what I've come to so far is that the Bigfoot and Tundra combo is about as close as I can get to my dream rig without actually having it. I think the truck camper really suits us. The 4x4 is a must. The high clearance is a must. I love how portable and also independent the truck camper is from the truck. It really makes it feel like our living space is a home and the truck is our vehicle, as opposed to a van or a bus where it's all kind of one package. They both have their pros and cons, but I do think in the future I'll stick to more of the truck camper setup, something that's a little bit more separated, unless something dramatic changes. But if I were able to have my dream rig, it would be a truck camper. I'm not going to name brand names because I feel like that's a dangerous game to play. And honestly, right now, I don't have one thing in mind. But I would want something that was for a season, similar to this fiberglass camper. I would want something 4x4 capable, high clearance capable, and hopefully a little bit lower of a center of gravity. That's really my one complaint so far with the Bigfoot, is that I am tall. And so far, every place that you've seen us turn around, it hasn't been because of the truck. The truck's doing amazing. It's because of the camper. We're either too high, too top heavy, or I'm just too uncomfortable to take it certain places that I know I could take something more like a pop-up camper that I trialed last year. The problem is, a rig like that can run you upwards of $100,000. And I don't know about you guys, but I do not have that kind of money right now. And so it's a very idealistic goal. Goal might even be pushing it. But I think that I'll likely stay in the Bigfoot Tundra combo until I can get close or exactly on that type of rig. Good morning, everyone. While we're still in the camper, I'm going to answer some questions about the camper and the truck itself. Nate M asks how the truck is doing and if there are any other things that I have planned for it upgrade-wise. You also mentioned using the decked system under the camper. So, all great questions. I do have a couple of things planned for the truck to support the camper better, and also just things that I purchased kind of aesthetically that I still have to do. The biggest upgrade or difference that you'll probably notice in a couple of weeks is going to be my bumpers. Right now, I have the camper mounted to the truck just with tie downs, which is not ideal. I don't recommend it, but it was a temporary mounting system that I was using until I add my bumpers. And otherwise, I've upgraded the suspension in the truck. I've put heavy duty leaf spring packs on it with Deaver down in Southern California. And then I also replaced the suspension. Nothing fancy, but it did also add a 2.5-inch lift to the truck. This allowed me to put a little bit bigger tires on it, and again, more of an aesthetic choice than anything. But I really love how it came out. The truck without the camper gets about 12 to 13 miles per gallon, which is not great. And I think right now, I don't have a way to calculate it exactly because the truck's older, but I'm getting between 11 and 12. So honestly, the camper doesn't really change that much. It's pretty aerodynamic and the truck supports the weight well. Beryl from Australia, this is super cool. Thank you, Beryl, asked whether or not I will put an emergency access door or window from the camper section to the driver's side of the truck. And this is something that I wanted to do, honestly, but unfortunately, just with the size of the camper width, the space that's available, and having these two full height cabinets there, which was really important for structural support of the camper, I was not able to put a window in large enough that even Terra can get through. In an absolute emergency, I could break that window, but I would have to know that ahead of time and have the truck's cab down. It's not ideal. I do wish that there were a way to have that as a feature in this rig, and it's definitely something I'll look at in the future if I ever get a different type of truck camper. Crafts and More with Donna asked, what kind of solar system do you have? Right now, you just have your Bluetti. So I do have a Bluetti, which I've talked pretty extensively about, and that charges off of my truck's alternator. So when I drive, I just plug that in, and it works great. I actually don't even carry solar panels for them, not because they don't work, but because it's just not worth the space for me, because the truck and camper are pretty tiny and my storage is limited. And then up on the roof, I have 450 watts of solar. So I have one large panel that spans pretty much the entire center portion of the camper's roof. It's 250 watts. And then up front, you'll notice I have two flexible solar panels, and those are 100 each. All right, another question I got a couple of times was my dream trip. And I guess that I have a couple different ideas of what a dream trip could be. I think right now in the camper, my dream trip is to drive up to Alaska. I think I mentioned that last night. At some point in the next couple of years, take Terra obviously, and go backpacking, hiking, exploring all through Canada, the Yukon, and up in Alaska where I actually have some family. So that is the near future dream trip. But I think far out, I have more like activity-based plans. I would love to bike pack or hike across New Zealand. I really want to do the Rim Road in Iceland. I want to visit the Lofoten Islands in Norway, and I guess just some more big mountain plans. But at some point I would like to go international and cross off a couple more just bucket list expeditions. All right, guys, skip ahead maybe, unless you're curious about feminine hygiene. But Ashley was wondering what I do for feminine hygiene in that time of the month on the road. And I will admit, up until December, I didn't have to deal with it. I was on a birth control that made it so I didn't get a period. And that's definitely the most convenient way to deal with feminine hygiene on the road, by and far. But other than showering, keeping clean as you would in a house, I found that having a toilet really helps. It just makes that time of the month a little bit more comfortable. And I also tend to use public bathrooms more, usually the ones with single stalls if possible. But generally speaking, it's really not too hard. It's just a matter of finding tools that really work for you. So whether that is having a toilet in your rig or maybe purchasing products that help you stay and feel cleaner on the road when you don't get a shower every single day, if you don't have a shower in your rig, really goes a long way. So yeah, I guess I would just say it's a little bit of trial and error. For me, I use a combination of, unfortunately, single-use like hygiene products that really help me stay and feel a lot cleaner on the road, and then having a toilet was the next thing that I looked into, and I don't regret it at all. Dory Bro over on Instagram asked whether or not I'm going to start fly fishing, and that's something that I kind of previewed on Instagram maybe a week or two ago, and I would love to. I just don't know yet what style I'm going to pursue. I need something that's super minimal. I don't want to spend a lot of money on it, and it needs to be compact. So I'm actually looking more into like a Tenkara style of fishing, just for all of those reasons. And because it's a lot easier and quicker to learn and start. I think ultimately later on in life I would love to learn to fly fish, but right now I just want to be realistic. Well, before we finish up, I just went and got a fun little beverage. It's a peach kombucha that I'm gonna sip on while I hit the last of these questions rapid fire. Mr. Jimbolio asked if I'm feeling better. Yes, probably due to the kombucha. But also it's been about 2 weeks now since I was sick. I do still have some congestion, but yeah, overall feeling really good. Corky33 asks what my favorite state to camp in is, and this is a tough one. Because I have favorite regions, not states so much, but I think overall my favorite state to camp in probably has to be Oregon. Not even that Oregon is my favorite state. I do like it up there, but it's just the easiest place to camp. Most places have service, which means I can work. Most places are pretty beautiful, and there's a lot of access to outdoor recreation. Dana in Tucson was wondering what my major at UC Davis was. I did go to UC Davis, and I majored in environmental science and management. Saib has asked how I like the truck so far. You say that you have a first gen too, and you know the brakes suck. Yes, they do, unfortunately. If I end up keeping this truck for an extended period of time, like multiple years, if I think I'm heading in that direction, I will probably do the big brake upgrade, and that's because I have drum brakes in the rear, which is not ideal. I wish that they came with disc brakes. Most trucks do. Most new trucks definitely do. But it's not something I'm going to invest a ton of money into until or unless I know that I'm keeping the truck for a long time. Otherwise, as I mentioned earlier, I'm doing the bumpers. I have some aftermarket bumpers from Coastal Off-Road. I did suspension upgrades with the leaf springs and the shocks, and then tires and wheels. Bob Frazier is wondering if I've seen a Grumpy Bear camper. I have not. I'm gonna look that up though, and maybe I'll insert a photo of one here. It should look similar or familiar to what I have maybe, so cool. Nomads for Hire asked if I am having trouble with how YouTube monetizes videos. Me too. No, I am not having any issue with it. I'm super grateful to be making an income on YouTube, and so far haven't had any issues. I get paid out once a month, and then I have other streams of income as well, which maybe I'll make a video on in the future, but for now, YouTube's great. Imperfect Adventure, Issa asked, how do you find the energy? You're involved in so many things. I don't feel like I'm really involved in that much. I feel like I am pretty to myself right now, especially. But that said, I have some big projects that I want to pursue. And so I guess, I don't know, I don't have the energy. I have to pace myself like anybody else, and coming from a background where I was like go, go, go all the time, maybe that's a part of it. This is actually a much slower pace compared to how I lived in college and earlier on in life. So it was training for this. Adventure Scooms asked, what do I do for work, or is YouTube my full-time job? So maybe not so rapid fire, but I'll give you the very short story. When I first hit the road in the van, it was like the middle of or the height of the pandemic. I guess not when I hit the road, but when I first got into the road, building all of this, I was working for local government, fully remote. Originally, my plan was actually to live in a van in the Bay Area where I was working at the time and save money on rent, because my rent was, including utilities, almost $2,000 a month, which is gnarly to have just a bedroom and like share a house with a bunch of other people. I realized quickly that I did not want to live in a van just south of San Francisco, and so that's when I started creating a lot online. So I knew that YouTube was a potential feasible option for me if I were to put in the time, love, and effort that it requires to make an income online and be self-employed, and that's what I did. It's definitely not a huge income. I am not rolling in it. I have a pretty small but very supportive, thank you all, following here, and it's more than enough to fuel this lifestyle for me. I'm paying off some debt that I have. I'm able to save a little bit, and I am mindful of my finances each month, but I don't have to be super strict. I can still, you know, buy a kombucha. Jillian asks, question about storytelling, filmmaking, and editing. Your videos are thoughtful and beautiful. Have you had training, or can you recommend an online course? No. Thank you so much, by the way. It's something that I am working at so hard, and I don't know if it's showing. I appreciate this comment though, because I really am putting in the effort. I love editing and putting together a story each week. Like, truly, maybe I'll eat my words, but I don't think I would ever hire an editor, which I know a lot of YouTubers do eventually, because that's my favorite part of the process. I don't have any experience or background or training in it. I haven't taken any courses. It's really just been a lot of, you know, honestly, kind of watching people that I love and picking up things here and there to kind of create my own style, which, as I'm sure you've noticed, I'm still developing and figuring out. My videos look a little bit different every single week, because every time I learn something new, I try to incorporate it, see if I like it, and then if I do, I'll carry it over to the week after. If not, I'm not afraid to scrap something and leave it out. One thing I will recommend though, and this is something that I just started reading, but it was recommended by people that I look up to, is a book called The Anatomy of Story, or The Anatomy of Storytelling. I'll insert a picture of the book cover here. I just started reading this book and so far it's incredible. It really breaks down how to be and tell a better story. So be a better storyteller, tell a better story. And it was recommended again by people who are on YouTube and filmmakers that I really look up to. So yeah, otherwise just my only advice I guess is to watch other filmmaking, cinematography, documentary style, whatever you're into, types of channels or documentaries or videos, and do what you can to learn from free resources, because there are a ton out there. You don't need to pay for anything to learn, especially the basics. All right, everyone, that is all the questions. Thank you so much for submitting them. I honestly was not expecting you all to have that many questions, so it was super fun to run through them. I hope that you enjoyed this less traditional type of Q&A. I can't stand the talking head for 30 minutes. I've done it in the past. I don't like to edit it. I'm sure it's not fun to watch, so this was definitely a better time. I'm super excited to keep going on these little mini adventures in the area while finishing up the build and taking care of things here at home. But ultimately, can't wait to get back on the road full time. So in the meantime, thank you all as always for being here. Thank you for your questions. I'll see you all next Sunday. Bye.